Okay, in week 15 Tuesday's video, we'll be talking about pages 211 through 248. Now, obviously, the first quiz of part 4 is scheduled for today. I do not intend to talk about that until the next video, though. So if you need that unlocked early, then let me know. So, reflecting on pages 211 through 248, so many things happening. First, right off the get-go, Alvin Dewey is celebrating in the kitchen. So he finds out that Dick and Perry have been arrested in Las Vegas. Woo! Yay! So joy and happiness for Alvin Dewey. Now on page 213, we do get some confirmation. Went past it. We get confirmation that they being Hickok and Smith, only think that they've been picked up for parole violation and passing bad checks. So the ruse that the KBI agents wanted is in place. Now they just have to spring on them. Oh, by the way, we think you committed a murder, and, see if they can get a confession out of them. So, all going according to plan. On page 214, we get a very, very interesting additional fact about this arrest. So, the last sentence of this little section on page 215, this is the patrol car that, picks them up, that arrests them. So this scene happens just before they're arrested. Just before Dick and Perry are arrested, they go to the Las Vegas post office and pick up a large cardboard box he had mailed from Mexico, which included 2 pairs of steel buckled boots. So maybe the investigators would have tracked it down anyways, but imagine the joy they felt when they, searched through the possessions that Dick and Perry were picked up with and were like, oh my God, we have the shoes, we have the boots, we have physical evidence. So they're still going to want a confession, of course, but that definitely helps in getting it. So that is a miraculous coincidence. Okay, now interrogation time. So in this section, we see them reacting to the boots, and the boots match the photographs on page 216. Yay! And so they start the interrogation process. We've come here to discuss your parole violation. Very calm, very unassuming, very non-threatening. So on page 217, Dick is relaxed, he's calm, he's chatting, talking about his history, talking about all the bad things he's done. Well, maybe not all the bad things. So anyways, things start to change a little bit on page 219. So on page 219, let's see if I can find the conversation. Yes. So he's going through the timeline, start talking about Fort Scott. And they mention, oh, yes, that would have been November 14th, and that's when Dick starts to be like, well, wait a second. Why would he know that date? Why would he be so certain about that date? He didn't know any of the other dates for things that I was talking about. Why is this date important? So that's the first indication that he has that maybe this isn't just about parole violation. So they continue questioning him, continue, talking about the alibi that Dick is presenting, these women that they supposedly got involved with, Fun Haven, all of the excuses and everything. Now, at the top of page 223, one of my favorite lines in the book, really, the moment when Dick realizes that things are not quite as they seem. So let me find it. Top of... Yes, okay, here we go. Top of page 223. Tell me, Dick, have you ever heard of the Clutter murder case? And in his report of the interview, suspect underwent an intense visible reaction. He turned gray. his eyes twitched. So you can imagine the like mental cursing that's going on in Dick's head, like, oh my God. And then another one of my favorite lines in the book, when Detective Nye really just like lays it all out for Dick. At the bottom of page 223, he tells him, Perry Smith has no sister living in Fort Scott. He never has had. She has never lived there. And on Saturday afternoons, the Fort Scott post office happens to be closed. Think it over, Dick. That's all for now. We'll talk to you later. Ho, 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 ho. He just punched so many holes in Dick's stupid alibi about Fun Haven and all that sort of stuff. And Dick knows that he is in some serious trouble. Okay. The interrogations continue. So now we switch over to Perry, who is less certain about all the details, but seems to be trying to stick to the same alibi that Dick came up with. The moment when they reveal the Clutter family to him definitely prompts some denial and everything. And but he doesn't seem to react in quite the same physical way that Dick does, except for he mentions that his legs were hurting a lot. So remember, when he gets nervous, he begins to rub his legs because he starts feeling leg pain. So that was a little tick, a little sign of his anxiety. And then I love this little detail at the end that Dewey drops for him. Do you know what tomorrow is? Nancy Clutter's birthday. She would have been 17. And we do have that confirmed from the section about Bobby, that Nancy's birthday is pretty close to Christmas and New Year's. So at this point, they let him stew for a little bit. They do keep them apart. He and Dick were being kept apart. They feel they have a better chance at encouraging them into a confession if they're kept apart, which is probably, accurate. We get Perry's kind of mental reaction to the moment when they talked about the Clutter family. He must have lost 10 pounds in 2 seconds. Thank God he hadn't let them see it. So the only indication that he had been concerned was the rubbing of his legs. Now, one thing that's mentioned here, let's see, middle of page 227, there is a kind of the beginning of a discussion about what type of witness they are referring to. A living witness would be someone who had physically seen them at the scene of the crime. Of course, they're not referring to a living witness, but they haven't told Dick or Perry that yet. So Dick, at the bottom of 227, he knows exactly who the witness is. He's like, oh yeah, that's definitely Floyd Wells. But they aren't sure whether it's an eyewitness or whether it's just, someone who can link them to the crime, or at least Perry isn't sure. Dick is reasonably confident. Okay, so that's the section on their ruminating. The section that starts on page 228, we get back to the cross-examination. Perry Smith, admits, oh, well, yeah, that was a story. We made that up, but he still isn't willing to give in on telling the truth about the Clutter family. Well, that was fake, but it was just so we could tell Dick's parents something, right? Now, on page 229, we start to get some more pressure on Dick. So let's see. Yes, the footprints. So the killers made only 2 mistakes. There was that witness, and the second mistake, this is a 1-to-1 reproduction of certain footprints found near Mr. Clutter's body. And here are the boots that made them. Your boots, Dick. We have his boots too, we have Miss Perry's boots too, and they fit another set of prints. Bloody ones. So Dick's boots were indeed the prints that were left in the dust, and Perry's were the prints that were left in the blood. So when they start telling him, here's what's going to happen to you, Dick rolls over. Perry Smith killed the Clutters. It was Perry. I couldn't stop him. He killed them all. What? So, the question, of course, at this point is, do we believe him? Is it possible that Dick and Perry went to that house intending to rob and kill the family, and that Dick didn't hurt a single one of them? That Perry was the one who killed them all? And it at least implies that Dick tried to stop him, maybe? I don't know. So on the surface, it totally appears like he's trying to cover himself here. So we'll see as time goes on whether you are persuaded by Dick's story or by the story that we eventually will get from Perry, which is a bit different. Okay. On page 230, we just get some reactions from the town folk, sobbing out his dramatic confession. Fainted in a hallway. So Dick is definitely not showing himself as dominant or, especially tough right now. But yeah, so we just get some reactions from the town folks about, what happened. Oh, and Miss Myrtle Clare, of course, very vocal about her thoughts. But anyways, so the next section, we have the transportation to the prison, to the Kansas prison. Obviously, they were arrested in Las Vegas. Now, here is where we finally get Perry's side of the story. And the detail that does it is this detail by Dewey. Now, Perry, of course, told this story to Dick in prison to impress him, and later kind of revealed to us in that kind of in his thoughts moment that it was not true. So when Dewey mentions the story about killing a colored man with a bicycle chain, Perry knows that Dick must have confessed. So he says, oh, well, I thought you were just telling me that he confessed, but I guess he really did. Wouldn't harm the fleas on a dog, just run over the dog. So he's definitely got a good picture of what Dick's personality is there. So anyways, the bottom of 232 confirms to us that Perry did not actually commit this deed. There are no unsolved cases that match that. So Perry is telling the truth to us about not actually having committed that crime. Okay, so now let's get Perry's confession. So most points of his confession are pretty on par with Dick's. There are only a few differences. The first one, there's some additional information at the bottom of 235 about what happened kind of leading up to that moment. So let's see. Paragraph about the baby. There it is. Okay. So when they were sitting outside, light flashed on and off, and Perry was about to back down. He was about to get out of the situation, and they were leaving. They were getting out of there. They weren't going to do it. Perry is a very intuitive, superstitious person, and he wanted to stop. He wanted to, not do it. Dick is the one who set up the situation, though, and he said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'll do it with or without you. So that's what led to them actually going through with it. So that was a detail that Dick had not shared with the investigators, was Perry's hesitancy. Most of the other details are pretty much on point. Let's see, around page 238, we do get a little bit more detail about the initial interrogation with Mr. Clutter. Let's see. At the foot of the stairs. Yeah, okay, so this paragraph, when Mr. Clutter opens his wife's bedroom, he says, "It's all right, sweetheart, don't be afraid. These men, they just want some money." So one of the theories that the investigators had is that if Mr. Clutter had known that their lives were at stake, that he would have fought back. And now we're getting confirmation of that. When he thought they just wanted to rob him, he went along, he obeyed, he complied with everything that they said. But once he, figured out that it was something more, that's when he fought back in the basement. Okay, so on 239, we get some additional commentary on Dick's character. So anyways, we of course know that the safe wasn't real, but Dick still seemed excited by having everybody at his mercy. So there is a little bit of a sadistic streak in Dick that Perry doesn't necessarily seem to emulate. Now, Perry can do some terrible things when he's under the influence of rage, but Dick seems to be the one who coldly enjoys inflicting pain on people sometimes. So anyways, another little detail that we get that the investigators had not picked up on, reason-wise, was the chair in the bathroom. I mentioned that there was one touch of tenderness that they had not deduced correctly, and that was the chair. The chair was for Mrs. Clutter's comfort. So the tucking in, the chair, the mattress box, the pillow, those were all Perry trying to make the victims a little bit more comfortable, even though he probably knew that their death was coming. So anyways, continuing onwards with Perry's story, we get another interesting answer here on page 240. We had a moment where Perry talked about some of the memories that have tormented him since the crime, and he mentioned a silver dollar. This moment is the explanation for why that silver dollar stuck in his memory. He found a silver dollar in Nancy's purse, and he got down on his knees to get the silver dollar. And he felt so disgusted by his own behavior, crawling on the floor to steal a child's silver dollar. He's like, God, what a piece of work I am. I can't believe I'm doing this. Kind of one of those moments where you just go out of your body and you kind of see yourself doing something and you're like, what? So he has that moment here, and that's why that moment stuck with him. Now, one thing that the investigators did not guess correctly at the bottom of 241 was a detail about the binding of the family. So there was some twine that was tied to the steam pipe, and they thought Mr. Clutter had been tied up and then cut down. The reality was that it was Kenyon. They initially tied him up in the same room with his father, and then they decided that that wasn't safe to keep them in the same room. So that's when they took him into the couch and inserted the pillow under his head because he had a coughing fit. Okay. Now on 243, we get another detail that Dick definitely did not tell the investigators. Right here. As we suspected, Dick wanted to rape Nancy. He said, I'm gonna bust that little girl. Ugh, disgusting, visceral language there. And that's when Perry stood up to him and said, absolutely not. Dick, out of the kindness of his sociopathic heart, said, well, what do you care? You can rape her too. Whoa, no. So he said, leave her alone. Now that is the reason that Nancy's mouth was not taped, because they had that argument about raping her, and I've seen that distracted them from, putting the adhesive tape on her mouth. And that, of course, is the reason that she was able to say those last words that haunted Perry. Okay, now 244, we get something interesting development in Perry's details about what happened, some kind of internal dialogue here. So Perry says, leave them alive, and this won't be any small rap. But he says that he meant to call his bluff. He wanted to seem like the tough guy who was going to kill the victims so that Dick would say, no, I don't think we have to kill him. So Perry insists that he did not want to kill any of these people at first. But when it came time for him to call his bluff, kneeling down beside Mr. Clutter to presumably slit his throat, the pain of kneeling reminded him of the silver dollar, reminded him of the shame and the disgust and the hatred that he felt for himself. And then suddenly he realized that Mr. Clutter's throat was cut. He said, I didn't realize what I'd done till I heard the sound. So Perry knelt down, blacked out, slit Mr. Clutter's throat, and then kind of came to and was like, oh my God, what did I just do? And that moment is going to be really important later when we are engaged in trial kind of stuff. So that little blackout moment is key to Perry's psychological motivation here. Okay, so the other detail, of course, that was a bit different at the bottom of 245 is who killed who. So Dick insists, of course, that all 4 people were killed by Perry. Perry says that Dick killed the 2 women. So he confessed to killing Mr. Clutter and Kenyon, but he insisted that Dick killed Nancy and Bonnie. Okay, anyways, at the top of 246, we get kind of the conclusion of Perry's confession. Of course, Dewey definitely, we're reminded that he definitely wants to see them hanged. He's fully in favor of capital punishment. And we finally get an estimate of how much the Clutters' lives were worth, between $40 and $50. So they went there thinking to find a safe filled with thousands, and they, in total, got $40 to $50. Wow. Okay. Last little section. Not much happening here except for the arrival of the criminals to Garden City. So Garden City, as the closest large town, will house the criminals until their trial. So initially, we've got crowds forming. They don't know exactly what time Dick and Perry are getting there, but all these people want to see. There were a lot of predictions that things might get a little bit heated. So no one was thinking straight up violence, but a lot of them thought that, I'm sure people will shout some things, murderer, or, something in the direction of the criminals. But when the crowd caught sight of Dick and Perry, everyone went dead silent. To be fair, by that time it was dark, it was cold. Maybe they just didn't have the energy anymore. But Truman Capote comments in this section, he thought, and I'm sure that he was there when Dick and Perry arrived, he thought that the crowd was amazed to find them humanly shaped, that they had been predicting in their minds these terrible monsters, that they'd be able to look into their eyes and see the evil in them, but they were just 2 ordinary looking guys, and that scared them even more. So that's it for part 3. So title of part 4 is The Corner, which, as you may recall, is the nickname for the gallows, the location that Dick and Perry are very rapidly heading. So part 4 will cover our trial, and then it will also cover Dick and Perry's time on death row, and eventually their execution. So that brings us up to date, and that's all I have to say.